This podcast is brought to you by Mapper Forward's new Patreon community, the Global Coffee Think Tank. Check the show notes or head to patreon.com/Mapper Forward to find out how you can become a member today. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and we are joined by Cosimo Libardo for our unfortunately last episode in our 5-part series. It always is bittersweet when it comes to the end of a conversation with you, Cosimo, because you and I could talk for hours about any subject. This one today is a very interesting one because this is something I think is a puzzle that all of us are trying to figure out. And that is, what is the cafe model of the future? What are your thoughts on that?
I do have some ideas. It's more of what I'm trying to do is a matrix of, let's say, financials and economics on the vertical.
Uh-huh.
Let's say on the I would put it more on the, I was thinking while I was saying it, I would put it more on the left side of the matrix, sort of the horizontal, not the vertical.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the vertical, the emotional aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's an intersection of these two. So if we look at the financial, I would definitely look at fixed costs. All fixed costs will come as a barrier. So I will consider what are the things that are more likely to make me unsuccessful when I open a new business. Mm-hmm. So we'll look at space needed, people needed, if I have the resources, if I have the knowledge, and if I have to acquire the knowledge, what will cost me? So, and knowledge is not a fixed cost, but that you would then have the variable costs. So we'll put fixed first, variable costs below. And then the emotional aspect is, do I have a recipe that will make, how different can I be? The emotional, the overarching question behind the emotional part is, what will make me different and more attractive to consumers than other businesses around me? What will help me create an identity around what I do? And so I will look at, where I want to be different, what is my identity? Do I have a recipe for rituals? And my format, according to rituals, like workflow, everything, do I have the knowledge to design that? And then I will see what cost they will generate in the if I had to create a matrix, this is an acid test of my idea. Mm-hmm. I never done it before. This is coming now, could be actually, I should have patented it before. I'm saying it live.
That's fine. We'll release this after you've patented it.
Because what you're trying to do is the merging between emotional revenue and financial, as I call it, transactional revenue. They have to make sense. They have to be. So what you're verifying is your idea. Mm-hmm. So what can I afford to do that will deliver this for me? Or if I want to really do this, what I need to spend. There are two ways to look at it. And and then it's also how much you are prone to risk
right.
in what you do, because that's also a factor that is very different. Let's say that the safest bet, and I'm not saying this is the only cafe that is possible, I want to say the safest bet would be a place that is highly specialized, that has a very small room, and there is a downside in that, but that would be the safest bet, because I could create different experience paths, bigger. Definitely, if I am going for bigger space, I wouldn't have tables everywhere. I have my ideas on that. That I'm not going to give away. I'm sorry, Lee. You're going to have
talk
to
about
call
that
me
off air.
to get advice. But
there's no way I'm opening a cafe anytime soon. But you would be somebody that, as a consultant, I would go to and say, I need you to consult to me. What are the only few people that I would go to?
I would create different experience paths inside a cafe, depending on different consumers out there, and depending on my identity, like what I want to communicate. So different, a format that comprehends different formats within that, but that requires more people, requires knowledge. So it requires a lot more capital to be operated successfully, but that could become a destination in a sustainable way over time, not based just on the looks and architecture or what kind of machine, or if I have an under counter, over counter. To me, that is not enough anymore to differentiate anything, because that's being used for, oh, well, we have an under counter machine, but like, okay, and so we can interact with customers. Yes, okay, but you like customers? You like to interact with customers? Are you sure that being overexposed to customers is the good thing? And you're capable of managing it for many hours? Because if you're an under-counter machine, but you're not even looking at them in the eyes, or you can look at them in the eyes for 5 minutes every hour, that might not be the best setup for you. Right. And this is an example. So bigger location, that gives more opportunities, very capital intensive, but it could create a sustainable experience over time. So, but you need knowledge. You need people that really, a much wider mix of talent to operate that. It could have coffee concierge in it. So you need to have highly specialized people that could create an experience around what you do. That's a model that I haven't seen many places doing, or any place doing. There were some attempts, but I think it was based more on brand or architecture than they were based on identity, let's say. So
do you think, if we look at what we're currently experiencing with regards, we go back to the labor shortage, if we look at the business model of the future, what role does that play, tying a lot of what we've spoken about in this series, tying all of that together, as well as the rituals that we're talking about? Because I think of something that's becoming a little bit popular right now, which is vending machines and coffee. And I wonder because it fixes a lot of problems, right? It fixes the labor problem. It fixes the rent problem. It fixes the cost of goods problem.
Yeah, but look,
where does it come?
Vending machines are about accessibility,
and convenience.
There is a huge demand for more accessible specialty experiences, making specialty more accessible rather than less elitist. A format built in one of these locations, it's also about the mood you create. The accessibility can be perceived there too. Doesn't mean that you're serving specialty and creating different experience paths around what you do, you're less accessible. Accessibility should be something you consider.
As a part of the
machine requires, you don't want to have interactions with a human when you go. I mean, we had coffee on shelves before that had prices that were this big, and you did not want to even ask the barista how much something cost, because you will find out it will be 50 euros, $50 for a 200 gram of coffee, and you were scared of asking the question, the barista. So you stood there, maybe you wanted that coffee, and maybe you would have bought it if it was done in a friendlier environment. That's for vending machines. There is no shame in vending machines. They do have a use, they do have a purpose, but those are the people that not only convenience, they're trying to not be judged while they purchase something.
Yeah.
That's why coffee, specialty coffee, made it to supermarkets, and it's working in some areas of the world, very few. But they're not an alternative. Vending machines are not really an alternative to what you experience in a cafe. I think they're two different. It's a differentiation. They're two different channels. And vending machines could have a ritual too, by the way, because rituals can be anywhere, just for, so it doesn't mean that it's a vending machine. There is convenience, there is accessibility, but that's an opportunity there too. There are opportunities to create rituals around anything you touch.
I think so too. Like, what I see is we're going to get a convergence of AI and technology and convenience come together to create a tailored experience for a consumer based on, and this is the cafe of the future that I foresee, which is instead of having, let's say, a Starbucks, we have a chain of these machines, or whether you call them vending machines or coffee convenience kiosks or whatever, and you can access them from anywhere based on an app. And this app has an AI that can read a lot of your personality, and it remembers the last time that you ordered this coffee in Los Angeles from this vending machine, and then you're going to Colorado and you see another one of these vending machines, and then it says, Cosimo, you had a filter coffee in the last location that you had, but we also know that the time before that you had a cappuccino. Which one are you thinking of today? Now, if that AI can start to give you some sort of personality, all of a sudden you feel heard, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, because AI, is something that profiles you. It's a bit like cookies when you go on websites.
100%.
Some people do not want to be profiled. Some people are happy that you know what they want. So
right.
Humans are like that. So that could be a positive or a negative thing that you definitely AI could be used for telemetry, reading what has been sold in a cafe. So consumers' behaviors in general, rather than making it individual, could be read on a mix of consumers without profiling you, because that's also part of some privacy laws. There are some countries in the world where that becomes a lot more complicated to do. And that would always favor bigger businesses, because the access to AI, will require also a lot of capital. In order to use it. But telemetry could give you a lot of information, and that's becoming more popular in cafes, even smaller cafes, for them to read how consumers are behaving. The owner that used to be there behind the machine in the past was the AI of the shop.
100%.
He was the one.
Knew everybody's name.
The ones.
Yeah.
Because you knew the people, you knew what they wanted. You were there. That's why artificial intelligence is very valuable when you have multiple locations. You need to manage multiple locations and read through what they're doing. And that helps roasters, helps reading, developing products that are more tailored for. It doesn't help the experience necessarily, though, because the AI that works on, it's good at giving you data. But how you design the experience and how you design your identity, it's much more of a human prerogative, fortunately, for me, that I'm not necessarily want to give everything to AI.
But our generation grew up differently, right? Like our generation, we didn't grow up with technology the same way that, let's say, Gen Z is growing up with technology, where they anticipate absolutely. This kind of stuff, right?
But emotions are emotions. AI, could feel emotions. If it starts feeling emotion, that's scary, because then it might not like it.
But it doesn't have to feel emotions. Excuse me. It doesn't have to feel emotions. It needs to evoke emotions in me. So let's say that you end up going to Colorado and it remembers your order from Los Angeles, but this AI knows that it's figured out you're a specialty coffee drinker, but every now and then you like a dessert type of coffee, and it says to you, hey, Cosimo, Starbucks is offering this really fancy drink, and it's called a Cinderella Latte. Would you like me to make one for you here? And you've seen this on social media, and you're like, how did this AI know that I had just seen that thing on social media? Now, you know what I'm saying?
Cookies.
Like now it's cookies. Absolutely, it's cookies. But the thing is, now you feel like, wow, I saw that on social media. This is really cool. Maybe I do want to figure this out. And now all of a sudden you've got an emotional experience with this AI. This AI knows you.
Not true. But what I'm saying is not distant from what you're saying. The AI can help you reproduce an experience as many times as you want, in an easy and convenient way, wherever you are. The AI is more of a tool to get data and make something reproducible infinite amount of times. But the designing of that experience idea is based on the data you acquire, but it's still a prerogative of the humans that are reading what the AI is telling them about consumer behavior.
100%.
Because it's what we do with that information is based on us. So the Cinderella Latte, it's a great idea.
And you're going to go and order one the next opportunity you get, aren't you?
I don't think so. I make my Cinderella Latte.
Shocked by that.
Myself. I'm surprised. I surprised myself. What am I going to drink today? I don't know. Let's try that.
The AI knows you want a Cinderella Latte, Cosimo.
I might try once to not disappoint the AI because it might get upset with me. I have a relationship with AI. I mean, I do understand the replicability and the scalability of experiences, and that's a huge value that it can generate. Reality is, we need to be the ones then that elaborate data and create and use
meaningful
them because they're very valuable, meaningful experience. We are the designers.
Yeah.
And that's where I do think that the role, and that's an opportunity for small businesses, because otherwise, if AI was the only competitive factor in the future, only bigger businesses would thrive. The small ones are doomed. I
feel like it's watch this space with that one though, right? Like it depends how all of these issues that are having converge and where we go from there.
Yeah, but I do think that smaller businesses with a smaller group can have maybe a much more honest, truthful, credible experience that can be touched by customers if they think about what they're doing, and rather than imitating what others are doing in a smaller space. Eventually, when you're opening your first cafe, I would never suggest to go big. Never. That's another suggestion. Take the smallest place you can, with the smallest strength that requires the smallest amount of stuff, because you're going to have some learnings. If it's your first, no matter how many consultants you hire, no matter if you have your cousin works in coffee and can come on a Sunday.
Live within your means.
That's right. What the matrix helps you is what you want to do and what is and what you know and what is possible. That makes what is possible. Resources and what you know and how much you get it. It's impossible, and that's the biggest barrier of entry, that someone that opens for the first time something in hospitality, in the service industry, will be as successful as someone that has closed already 3 and failed and tried many times. It's almost impossible. Then there are the geniuses out there, and that's why it's hard to operate a cafe, but it's also an opportunity that is open to many that do the right choices, that plan it, the whole design of the place, from the emotional to the physical. It's the key point that needs to be taken into account.
Yeah.
And the little matrix I said, it's good
patented.
Tool.
It will
Not
be
yet,
patented.
unfortunately.
What a great place to end the podcast. Thanks so much for coming on and gracing us with your presence again, Cosimo. I hope it won't be too long before we do this again. I will see you in MICE. If people want to get in contact with you, what's the best place to do that?
Well, the best place would be my email, which is Cosimo, Lib. Yeah, we'll put it in the notes.
Yeah, and do you want to just say it for people who are listening? Cosimo.
Yeah, so Cosimo, Cosimo, Lib is let's say the name before the at gmail.com.
Perfect. And you can always get in contact with us if you are looking for Cosimo's details. Yeah. If I was looking for a coffee consultant other than myself, Cosimo is the consultant that I would hire. There's nobody else. So
thank you.
My pleasure. So I'll see you at MICE, and we'll see how it goes for the next time you're on the podcast. Peace, love, and peanut butter, everybody. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks friends, if you enjoyed this video, here's what you should check out next. Consider supporting Map It Forward on Patreon and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell before you leave.